In a world that never stops spinning, where notifications constantly demand our attention and responsibilities pile higher with each passing day, inner peace often feels like a distant dream, something reserved for monks on mountaintops or privileged individuals who can afford to escape the chaos of everyday life. But what if I told you that true inner peace isn't found by running away from the world, but by changing how you exist within it? Welcome back to the channel, and before we begin, take a moment to hit that subscribe button and notification bell. Our community is growing, and I don't want you to miss our journey toward greater self-awareness and inner peace. Today we're diving deep into something we all desperately need, but rarely find: genuine inner peace. Not the Instagram-worthy, picture-perfect moments of tranquility that last for a carefully filtered photograph, but the kind of sustainable calm that remains with you even when life throws its inevitable challenges your way. Over the years of exploring spiritual practices, psychological research, and ancient wisdom traditions, and applying them in my own life through both triumph and tragedy, I've discovered that inner peace isn't a destination. It's not something you achieve once and then possess forever. Instead, it's a practice, a way of being that requires consistent cultivation. The good news? You don't need to radically change your external circumstances to find this peace. The path is already within you, hidden beneath layers of societal conditioning and habitual thought patterns that keep you trapped in cycles of stress and reactivity. Today, I'm sharing 3 essential strategies that have transformed not only my life, but the lives of thousands in our community. These aren't quick fixes or surface-level solutions. They're profound shifts in how you relate to yourself, others, and the world around you. Before we begin, take a moment to center yourself. Perhaps close your eyes if you're in a safe place to do so. Take a deep breath in and out. Feel the weight of your body against whatever is supporting you right now. This moment, right here, right now, contains everything you need for peace. Our journey today is about remembering this truth again and again until it becomes your natural way of being. Let's begin. Conventional narrative. When most people think about inner peace, they imagine a life free from problems. They believe peace comes when they finally have enough money to feel secure, they find the perfect relationship, they move to that ideal location, they achieve the right level of success, their body finally looks or functions correctly, their family dynamics improve, the world's problems are solved. This perspective places peace firmly in the future, always contingent on external circumstances aligning perfectly. It's the "I'll be happy when" approach that keeps genuine contentment perpetually out of reach. And society reinforces this narrative constantly. Advertising tells us we're incomplete without certain products. Social media shows carefully curated lives that seem perfect compared to our messy reality. Productivity culture insists we should always be doing more, achieving more, being more. Even many spiritual and self-help approaches subtly reinforce this idea, promising transformation through the right technique, the right teacher, or the right experience. The result? We're constantly striving, constantly seeking, constantly disappointed when the promised peace doesn't materialize after we've checked all the boxes we thought would deliver it. I lived this way for years, always chasing the next achievement, relationship, or spiritual experience that would finally make me feel complete. Each attainment would bring a momentary high, a brief period of satisfaction before the emptiness would creep back in and I'd begin searching for the next fix. It wasn't until I experienced a profound personal crisis, losing my health, relationship, job, loved one, and having my identity shattered, that I was forced to confront the fundamental flaw in this approach. The truth is, waiting for perfect circumstances is the surest way to never experience peace. Because life, by its very nature, will always include challenges, uncertainties, and pain alongside its joys. Deconstruction. Let's deconstruct this conventional narrative and examine why it fails to deliver the peace we seek. First, the belief that peace comes from perfect external conditions ignores a fundamental truth of human psychology: hedonic adaptation. Research has consistently shown that humans quickly adapt to both positive and negative changes in our circumstances. Win the lottery or suffer a serious injury, Within months, most people return to their baseline level of happiness. Why? Because our minds are meaning-making machines. We constantly create narratives about our experiences, and these narratives, not the experiences themselves, determine our emotional state. When we achieve something we've been striving for, our minds quickly normalize it. The new car becomes just the car. The dream home becomes just home. The perfect relationship reveals its inevitable imperfections. And then we set our sights on the next target, believing that will finally bring lasting satisfaction. Second, this approach keeps us perpetually focused on what's lacking rather than what's present. Neuroscience has revealed that our brains have a negativity bias. We're more attuned to potential threats and problems than to the good already existing in our lives. When peace is contingent on fixing every problem and fulfilling every desire, we're training our attention to constantly scan for what's wrong or missing. This creates a background anxiety that makes genuine peace impossible. Third, the conventional approach misunderstands the very nature of peace itself. True inner peace isn't the absence of problems, it's the presence of something far more profound, a deep, abiding connection to the present moment and to your own innate wholeness. The mystics and contemplatives from various wisdom traditions have been telling us this for millennia. Peace isn't something you achieve through external accomplishments. It's what remains when you stop identifying exclusively with your thoughts, emotions, and circumstances, when you recognize the dimension of awareness that exists beyond the constant fluctuations of experience. Perhaps most importantly, the conventional narrative keeps us trapped in cycles of control. We believe if we can just control our circumstances enough, our bodies, our relationships, our finances, our environments, then we'll finally feel safe enough to relax into peace. But life, by its very nature, is uncontrollable. Change is the only constant. Health fluctuates. Relationships evolve. Economic conditions shift. The world continues to face enormous challenges. When our peace depends on controlling what can't be controlled, we're setting ourselves up for perpetual frustration and anxiety. So if perfect circumstances aren't the path to peace, what is? Strategy 1. Conscious presence. The first essential strategy for cultivating inner peace is developing conscious presence, the ability to fully inhabit your experience exactly as it is, without resistance or judgment. This may sound simple, but it runs counter to our habitual patterns. Most of us spend our lives oscillating between two states, either lost in thoughts about the past and future, or trying to escape uncomfortable aspects of our present experience. We're rarely fully here, yet conscious presence is the foundation of all genuine peace. When you're fully present, you're no longer at war with reality. You're no longer adding the suffering of resistance to the inevitable challenges of life. Let me guide you through a brief practice to illustrate what I mean. Wherever you are right now, take a moment to notice your breath. Don't try to change it, just observe its natural rhythm. Feel the sensations of the air moving in and out of your body. Now expand your awareness to include physical sensations. Notice points of contact between your body and whatever is supporting you. Notice temperature, energy, perhaps tension or relaxation in different areas. Bring your awareness to sounds in your environment, again, not judging them as good or bad, just noticing their qualities, pitch, volume, duration. Finally, notice thoughts and emotions moving through your awareness. Can you observe them without becoming completely identified with them? Can you see them as passing events in consciousness rather than absolute reality? This simple practice demonstrates the essence of conscious presence. You're not trying to fix, change, or escape your experience. You're simply being with what is, with an attitude of curious, compassionate awareness. Why is this so powerful for cultivating peace? Because most of our suffering comes not from our direct experience, but from our resistance to it, our stories about how things shouldn't be this way, how we can't handle this, how we need things to be different before we can be okay. When you practice conscious presence, you begin to discover an astonishing truth. There is a dimension of your being that remains untouched by the changing circumstances of your life. A witness consciousness that can hold all experiences, pleasant and unpleasant, without being defined or limited by them. I discovered this personally during Share Brief personal story about a challenging time when presence helped you find peace despite difficult circumstances. The beauty of conscious presence is that it's always available, regardless of external conditions. You can practice it during mundane activities like washing dishes or brushing your teeth, in challenging conversations or conflicts, while experiencing physical pain or discomfort, in moments of joy and pleasure, which we often miss because we're thinking about something else, when facing major life challenges or transitions. With consistent practice, you'll notice that you spend less time lost in regrets about the past or worries about the future. You'll respond to challenges more skillfully instead of reacting automatically. And most importantly, you'll discover that peace is available in this very moment, not as an achievement, but as your natural state when you stop fighting against reality. But presence alone isn't enough. To create lasting peace, we need to address the deeply ingrained patterns that repeatedly pull us away from the present moment and back into states of stress and reactivity. Which brings us to our second essential strategy. Strategy 2, emotional freedom. The second strategy for cultivating inner peace is developing emotional freedom, the ability to experience your full emotional landscape without being controlled by it. Many of us have been taught, explicitly or implicitly, that certain emotions are bad or dangerous. We learn to suppress anger, avoid sadness, hide fear, or distrust joy. We develop complex strategies to avoid feeling what we don't want to feel. But emotions in themselves aren't problems to be solved. They're valuable information about what matters to us and how we're relating to our experience. The attempt to control or avoid emotions is what creates inner conflict and robs us of peace. Emotional freedom begins with a radical shift in how you relate to your feelings. Instead of judging them as good or bad, welcome them as messengers carrying important information. This doesn't mean you act on every emotion impulsively. It means you create space to feel them fully in your body, understand their message, and then choose how to respond with wisdom and alignment with your values. Let me share a practical framework for developing emotional freedom. 1. Recognition. The first step is simply naming what you're feeling. Research has shown that the simple act of labeling emotions, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling disappointed, I'm feeling joyful, helps activate the prefrontal cortex and reduce the intensity of difficult emotions. Many of us weren't taught an emotional vocabulary growing up, so we collapse complex emotional states into vague categories like good, bad, or stressed. Expanding your emotional literacy allows for more nuance and precision. 2. Acceptance. Once you've recognized an emotion, the next step is accepting its presence without judgment. This doesn't mean you like the emotion or want to stay in it forever. It simply means you stop fighting against the reality that this emotion is present right now. A helpful phrase might be, I notice emotion is present, and that's okay. It's allowed to be here. 3. Investigation. Now you can explore the emotion with curious awareness. Where do you feel it in your body? What sensations accompany it? What thoughts or beliefs are connected to it? What might this emotion be trying to tell you? This investigation isn't analytical or intellectual, it's an embodied exploration of your direct experience. 4. Non-identification. The final step is recognizing that while you're experiencing this emotion, you are not the emotion itself. You are the awareness that can observe and hold this emotional experience. This subtle but profound shift from I am angry to I notice anger arising in my experience creates inner spaciousness and freedom. You're no longer defined or controlled by emotional states as they move through you. Let me share how this framework helped me work with specific emotion during a brief personal example of using this approach. As you develop emotional freedom, you'll notice that feelings move through you more fluidly rather than getting stuck. You'll experience less secondary suffering, the added layer of shame, self-criticism, or resistance that often accompanies difficult emotions, and you'll develop greater resilience in the face of life's inevitable challenges. This doesn't mean you'll never feel difficult emotions again. It means you'll have a healthier, more spacious relationship with your full emotional landscape. And paradoxically, when you stop fighting against certain emotions, they often transform naturally and create space for greater peace. Conscious presence helps you anchor in the now. Emotional freedom helps you work skillfully with your inner landscape. But there's one more dimension that's essential for sustainable inner peace, especially in a world filled with so much suffering and uncertainty. Strategy 3: aligned purpose. The third essential strategy for cultivating inner peace is developing an aligned purpose, a way of engaging with life that connects your unique gifts with something larger than yourself. This might seem counterintuitive at first. Isn't peace about stepping back from the world's problems rather than engaging with them? Isn't purpose about striving and achieving rather than being at peace? But the deepest wisdom traditions and modern psychological research agree. Humans need meaning to thrive. We need to feel that our lives matter, that we're contributing to something beyond our individual comfort and happiness. When we lack this sense of purpose, even comfortable circumstances can feel empty and unsatisfying. But when we have it, we can face tremendous challenges with resilience and even joy. The key is finding a purpose that's genuinely aligned with your authentic nature, not one imposed by external expectations or driven by the ego's need for validation and control. Aligned purpose emerges at the intersection of three elements. 1. Your authentic gifts and talents. What comes naturally to you? What activities put you in a state of flow where time seems to disappear and you feel fully engaged? What do others consistently recognize in you? These questions point toward your unique gifts, not just professional skills, but qualities of being. Perhaps your capacity for deep listening, your ability to simplify complex ideas, your talent for bringing beauty into spaces, or your natural compassion for those who are suffering. 2. The world's needs. Where do you see suffering, problems, or opportunities for positive change? What issues naturally draw your attention and concern? What needs do you notice in your immediate community or in the broader world? This isn't about taking on every problem or saving the world single-handedly. It's about recognizing where your care naturally flows. The path of growth. What challenges help you evolve into a more conscious, compassionate version of yourself? What work stretches you in ways that feel both difficult and deeply right? Aligned purpose isn't always comfortable. It often involves growth edges that ask you to develop new capacities and transcend limitations in your self-concept. When these three elements converge, you discover a purpose that feels both deeply personal and connected to something larger than yourself. This purpose might express itself through your career, creative projects, relationships, community involvement, spiritual practice, or likely some combination of these. The form isn't what matters most. It's the underlying alignment with your authentic nature and the sense of contribution to a greater whole. I found my own aligned purpose when brief personal story about discovering your aligned purpose and how it contributes to your inner peace. Aligned purpose contributes to inner peace in several profound ways. First, it reduces the inner conflict that comes from living out of alignment with your values and authentic nature. When your outer life reflects your inner truth, you experience the peace of integrity. Second, it provides a meaningful context for life's inevitable challenges. Difficulties become growth opportunities in service of something that matters deeply to you, rather than meaningless obstacles to happiness. Third, it connects you to something more enduring than your individual concerns and fluctuating circumstances. When your identity expands to include your contribution to the whole, you become less fixated on personal comfort and more resilient in the face of change. Finally, aligned purpose brings the joy of making a positive difference, however modest, in a world that needs your unique gifts. There's a deep satisfaction in knowing that your existence matters, that you're leaving things a little better than you found them. As we integrate these three strategies, conscious presence, emotional freedom, and aligned purpose, we discover that inner peace isn't a static state to achieve once and for all. It's a dynamic equilibrium, a way of being that allows us to engage fully with life while remaining anchored in something deeper than our changing circumstances. Synthesis and practical application. Now that we've explored these three essential strategies, let's talk about how to integrate them into your daily life, because theoretical understanding means little without practical application. The good news is that you don't need to radically restructure your life to begin. Small, consistent practices can create profound shifts over time. For cultivating conscious presence, begin each day with 5 to 10 minutes of mindful awareness. This could be formal meditation or simply paying attention to your breath and bodily sensations before getting out of bed. Create presence triggers throughout your day. Specific activities that remind you to return to awareness. This might be walking through doorways, washing your hands, or notifications on your phone. Practice single tasking rather than multitasking. When eating, just eat. When listening to someone, just listen. When washing dishes, just wash dishes. Take short presence breaks throughout your day, 60 seconds to check in with your body, breath, and surroundings. For developing emotional freedom, start a regular journaling practice to develop greater emotional awareness and vocabulary. When strong emotions arise, use the 4-step framework: recognition, acceptance, investigation, and non-identification. Create safe spaces to feel and express emotions fully, perhaps with a trusted friend, therapist, or support group. Practice self-compassion when difficult emotions arise, remembering that these are universal human experiences. For discovering aligned purpose, reflect on times in your life when you felt most alive, engaged, and fulfilled. What elements were present? Ask trusted friends what they see as your natural gifts and contributions. Notice where your attention and care naturally flow. What issues, people, or causes matter deeply to you? Experiment with small ways to bring your gifts to these areas without pressure to solve everything immediately. In my own journey, integrating these practices hasn't been linear or perfect. I still have days when I get caught in old patterns, lost in worries about the future, fighting against difficult emotions, or questioning the impact of my work. The difference is that I now recognize these patterns more quickly and have practices to return to a more peaceful state of being. And I found that each time I come back to these core strategies, they become more natural and accessible. As you implement these practices in your own life, remember that this is a journey of progress, not perfection. You'll have days of profound peace and days when peace feels elusive. That's not failure. It's part of being human. The key is consistency and self-compassion. Each time you notice you've drifted from presence, emotional freedom, or aligned purpose, simply acknowledge it without judgment and gently return to the practice. Over time, you'll find that your baseline state shifts. What once required conscious effort becomes more natural. Moments of peace extend into hours, days, even weeks of greater equanimity and engagement with life. And paradoxically, as you become less dependent on perfect circumstances for your peace, you'll likely find that your external life improves as well. You'll make choices from a place of clarity rather than reactivity. You'll attract relationships that support your authentic being. You'll engage with challenges more skillfully and creatively. Addressing obstacles. Before we conclude, let's address some common obstacles you might encounter on this path. I don't have time for these practices. This is perhaps the most common objection, and it reflects a misunderstanding of what these strategies require. While setting aside dedicated time for meditation or reflection is valuable, many of these practices can be integrated into your existing routine. Presence can be practiced while commuting, showering, or waiting in line. Emotional freedom can be developed in the midst of challenging interactions. Aligned purpose often expresses itself through how you engage with work and relationships you're already committed to. Start with just 5 minutes of dedicated practice daily and look for opportunities to bring these approaches into your normal activities. My mind is too busy for meditation. A busy mind isn't a barrier to meditation. It's precisely why meditation is valuable. The point isn't to have no thoughts, but to change your relationship to thinking. If you find sitting meditation challenging, try movement practices like walking meditation, Tai Chi, or yoga. Or begin with guided meditations where someone else's voice helps anchor your attention. My emotions are too overwhelming. If certain emotions feel overwhelming or unsafe to explore on your own, that's a sign that some additional support might be helpful. Consider working with a therapist, counselor, or spiritual director who can provide a safe container for emotional processing. Remember that emotional freedom is a gradual process. Begin with milder emotions and slowly build your capacity for being with more challenging feelings. I don't know what my purpose is. Purpose often reveals itself gradually through experience, not through figuring it out intellectually. Focus on taking small steps toward activities that engage your natural gifts and address needs you care about. Pay attention to what energizes rather than depletes you, what feels meaningful even when it's challenging. Your purpose will likely evolve throughout your life, so focus on what calls to you now rather than trying to plan your entire journey. These obstacles are natural parts of the journey. When you encounter them, treat them as opportunities to deepen your practice rather than reasons to abandon it. Conclusion. As we reach the end of our exploration today, I want to return to where we began, with the recognition that true inner peace isn't found by escaping the world or perfecting your circumstances. It emerges naturally when you anchor yourself in conscious presence, fully inhabiting this moment without resistance. Develop emotional freedom, relating to your feelings with awareness and compassion rather than being controlled by them. Discover aligned purpose, engaging your authentic gifts in service of something larger than yourself. These 3 strategies form a powerful foundation for navigating life's inevitable challenges with greater equanimity, resilience, and joy. I want to emphasize something important. The peace we're talking about isn't passive or disconnected from the realities of our world. It's not about becoming so detached that you stop caring about suffering or injustice. Quite the opposite. The deeper your peace, the more effectively you can engage with life's challenges. You bring presence rather than reactivity, compassion rather than judgment, creative response rather than habitual reaction. In that sense, cultivating inner peace isn't just a personal indulgence. It's a profound contribution to our collective well-being. A world of more peaceful individuals naturally becomes a more peaceful world. As you leave this video and return to your day, I invite you to take one small step toward greater peace right now. Perhaps take 3 conscious breaths, or check in with what you're feeling in this moment without judgment, or reflect on one way you might bring your authentic gifts to something that matters to you. Remember that the path to peace isn't about reaching a permanent destination. It's about returning again and again to these essential practices. Each return strengthens your capacity to live from a place of greater awareness, freedom, and purpose. If you found value in today's exploration, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content on self-discovery, inner peace, and authentic living. In the comments below, I'd love to hear which of these strategies resonates most with you, or any questions you have about implementing them in your own life. Thank you for joining me on this journey today. Until next time, remember that peace isn't something you have to search for outside yourself. It's your natural state when you remove the obstacles to recognizing what's already here.